Hi there, my name is Chad Trofgruben, and this course is all about Moho and After Effects. In this course, you'll learn about Moho compositions, how to export out image sequences from Moho, then we'll go into After Effects and spruce up the scene with blurs, particle effects, other animations, and we'll also touch on blend modes and how to just enhance the scene, color it differently, and make it pop more for your audience. This course was originally on Udemy and tunefiles.com and is now available here for archival purposes. And I'll leave a link to that original course in case you want access to the work files. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something.
For this video, I'm in After Effects and I'm working off of 04 addingcamerablurs.aep. Feel free to open this up if you wish to follow along with my file. So now we want to go in and start blurring things out to add the depth of field back in. And we did this in the previous course, but again, we took those elements out so we can replace them with After Effects specific blurs and all that fun stuff. So we'll come over here to the Effects and Presets panel on the right, and we're just going to type in camera to locate camera lens blur. We'll come over here to the layers and we'll start on the bottom and work our way up with this. So first we can start with the mountains since it's more obvious, and then we can backtrack to the sky and sun if we want. But we'll take the camera lens blur and bring it over just by clicking and dragging and then releasing on mountains. You can already tell that they're more soft, but up here under Effect Controls, you have the camera lens blur listed, and the first option is the blur radius. You can come in here and adjust that and make it just as blurry as you want it. I'm not quite sure where I want it yet, but I'll put it at around 15 for right now. And again, you can come back and play with this at any time. So now we're going to do the same for the hills. I can click once on hills. You can also copy and paste the camera lens blur over to the hills if you wish, but since we didn't do that much with it, I'm just going to drag and drop it over to hills. And this time we'll bring it up just a little bit less than we had it before. I think we had it at 15 for the mountains, so let's bring it back to about 10 for the hills. We can blur out the clouds as well. So let's locate the clouds in the background and then just bring those down. Come in and we can just blur that out. And we can make those at around 15. Actually, let's go to 16. And then we have the smoke in the background as well. That can be blurred out. And you can come in, and I'm actually going to be adding a second blur effect to the smoke. So we'll just make it a little bit blurry for right now. And that's going to cover both pieces of smoke. We have that one in the background behind our character currently. And that's looking pretty good. So now we have some other elements here that we could blur out, but they are a part of the same layer. So there are some considerations we'll have to make if we want to do that. So we'll leave that for right now. And then just come back here to the sky and the sun, and we can apply the camera lens blur to those. It's not really a big deal, but it might help a little bit just with everything going on. So we can put the sky up to, let's say, about 20. And I'm going to come down here for the sky and click on Repeat Edge Pixels for Edge Behavior. You can see when I disable this, we have this feather effect that goes around the frame, and I don't want that in this case, so we're just going to click on that to disable it. And the same goes for the sun. Just come in here and add that lens blur. And again, this is kind of hard to tell. You could come in and blur it out. But when we're up close with it, it will help just having these things look a little bit more soft, so that way we can pay more attention to the foreground elements. And again, there's more we can do with this, but those are some basic camera blurs we can apply. So we'll pause here, and up next, move on to the next step. In this video, we are inside of After Effects working off of 05 burninglava.aep. Feel free to open up this file. We now want to add a little bit more camera blur to the background. The problem we have, though, is a lot of our background is on the lava, trees, and rocks layer. So if we were to come in and add a camera lens blur, you'll see it's just going to come in and blur everything. And that's not going to look very good because we do want the foreground elements to not be blurry. So we're just going to undo those steps with Command Z or Control Z. And we want to create a mask for this layer and then duplicate it so that we can basically split it in half and have one part blurry and the other half not blurry. So let's click on the lava, trees, and rocks layer, and we'll want to grab the pen tool at the top. You can also use G on the keyboard if you wish. You'll want to determine where you want the blurriness to start. So in this case, I'm just going to start with the boundary of the rock. So anything past the rock and within that area is going to be blurry. So we can just start here and come up. And we're just going to get this situated really quick. Let's come up like that and like that. And I can wrap it around down like that and then connect it to the original point. And we now have the mask. And right when you create the mask, you're going to see that because half of this is now gone. But that's okay. The next part is to duplicate the lava, trees, and rocks layer with Command D or Control D if you're on Windows. Then hit M on the keyboard to bring up the mask for that layer. Then, where you have your mask options, click on the Add drop-down menu and then choose Subtract. So now, as you can see, the scene is now back where it needs to be. We can also bring this new layer, because if we hide this, that's the background elements, below the other one. So that way, here are our foreground elements, and they are technically above the background elements. It's not a big deal, but it kind of helps with our ordering, and it allows us to know which one is which. So we can now come in and start applying our camera lens blur to this. So we'll drop it on the bottom. And you can see now we have the ability to blur things up a little bit. And I'm just going to come in and we'll put it not too high. We just want it to kind of soften up, maybe at around 3 or 4. Let's go 4. There we go. So now, if we click off of this, you can see it looks like this. Now, there's a little bit of a problem. We have this boundary we can see right here. If we zoom in, it's a little bit more obvious. You can see it's this orange outline. And so what I can do is just go back here to these layers, and I'll hit M to bring up the layer mask properties for each. And while on the mask, hit F to bring up the feather. And we're just going to feather this out. I'll do it at about 20. And make sure you do it for each mask. There we are. So now if we click off, you can see it looks a little bit like this. Now it kind of has this glow going on. So you can come in and play with this to get it exactly how you want it. I might have the feathering a little bit too extreme. So just by coming in and playing with these options, you can hone it in and get it where you want it to be. The last thing we can do then is come in and just watch how this mask runs. So as the mask is playing out here, and let me put this to quarter just so it runs a little bit quicker. We might want to come in and just adjust the mask in some cases. So as you can see right here, we have the mask, and it might not even be that obvious. It might be just enough because we have a lot going on, but we can just start here, bring up the mask path, and we'll just click on the stopwatch at this point, and we can just come in and start manipulating that mask just by moving these points where we feel like they should go, especially in the foreground elements here. And again, there are other ways you can go about doing these types of things, but for right now, we're just going to do something like this since it's relatively simple compared to what else we could be doing since it's such a simple scene. And that's looking pretty good. Again, you can adjust these things. It doesn't have to be exact. But then he's going to jump over here. And at that point, we might want to move it. But actually, I would say not much. We can just come right about here and just kind of move it up in relation to that rock. And we could even come down like this a little bit for that one to cover the tree all the way in that background. So kind of like that. And then it's going to just move over like this. And at this point, when the camera stops, because we have it come right here, I'm going to copy and paste my first keyframe for my mask back to there. So it kind of looks like this. Now, it might not be perfect, but what I am going to do, just so I can test this out, is back up to that first keyframe where I started the mask path, and then come down here to this mask right here for its path, and I'm going to insert keyframe and then paste those keyframes. So now both of those masks will follow the same path, and hopefully everything is going to look pretty good. You can see there's a little bit of an issue. And that might just be a feathering issue. I can just come in and then play with the feathering to get it where I need it to go. I could also come in and play with the expansion a little bit as well. There we go. Bringing the expansion down might actually help in that case. And there you are. So again, you have a little bit more blurriness now going on. It's not a whole lot, but I think it does help with the overall look of this production. So there you go. We can pause here and move on to the next step. For this video, I am working off of 06 blurringsmoke.aep. Feel free to open up this file if you wish to follow along. I now want to just go in and do a little bit more blurring, specifically with the smoke. So we'll start with the foreground smoke first. I'm just going to come down here and locate the foreground smoke. Come over here to my effects and presets, and I'm going to type in directional. And you'll see here we have directional blur pop up under blur and sharpen. We're just going to drag and drop that over to here. So now you'll see what we have going on here is we have the center point. And what I want to do is get that so that it's basically underneath the smoke. And that center point is actually called the anchor point. So I'm going to click on the smoke and then hit A on my keyboard to bring up my anchor point. And then using these numbers, I'm just going to move this so that the smoke is right below the layer, so like that. Then I'll click on that layer again and then hit P to bring up position, and we can bring this over and try to reposition it back where it was. So just come down like that, and there we go. So now with that effect, it will go from wherever we have the anchor point, and it's going to move up because we have it set to do so. So now we're just going to come in and adjust the blur length. And as you can see, the more I do it, the more blurry it gets. So I could put it to about there. And you can see it looks something like that. And it's looking pretty good. So you can come in and make those adjustments and do whatever you need to do with it. And the background smoke is going to be the same thing. We can locate smoke BG. Now, we do have both pieces of smoke on here, but that's okay. I think it's enough in the background to where we don't have to have the anchor point for each. We can just come in with the directional blur, and that anchor point is in the middle pretty much, so we can just put it right down there and come in and adjust the blur length and see what it does. And it's actually looking pretty good. Again, it doesn't have to be that much, maybe at around 40. And so now you have all that going on now. So that's looking a little bit better. And again, even adding in these blurs really helps, I think, sell what's going on in the scene and gives off more depth. So we'll pause here, and up next, we'll move on to adding some glow to the lava. For this video, I am working off of 07glowinglava.aep, and I am inside of After Effects. We now want to make the lava glow, just to add a little bit more visual flair to what's happening, and to add emphasis that the lava is hot and not good for our character. So let's come over here to the effects and presets. We're just going to seek out glow. And once you find it, just drag and drop it over to the first lava and trees. Now you can see it's going to split this up. We're just going to come up and hide the foreground one for right now, and we will reference this one, and then we can copy and paste the effect over once we're done. But as you can see, just by adding this, it already gives us something to work with. I can hide the effect and turn it on. You can see the difference. But what I want to do is come in and play with some of these options. For color A and B, I'm going to change these. When I click on one swatch, it'll bring up a color picker, and I can come in here and start to play with these colors. So for color A and B, I'm going to do like a yellow and a bright orange, and then click OK. Now you'll see here it says Glow Colors Original. I can bring this down and choose AB, and that allows me to come in and adjust just how different the colors are going to look. And the midpoint allows me to come in and adjust how separated they are as we work. But now we can come in and start to play with the intensity as well as a threshold. You can see the threshold has a big change on what's happening here. So I'm thinking if we go to the threshold at about 42, that's looking pretty cool. And you also have to kind of play it out a little bit to see what it's going to look like. And it might be kind of hard to tell until you're able to put in the last piece, which of course is this part right here. But we should have enough here to experiment with. So we're just going to come down here and keep playing with these glow settings. We can adjust the glow radius so we can make it look like it's blooming out a little bit like that. And again, you can adjust the intensity and all that. So let's put it to about right there. And I'm going to grab that glow effect and copy it, and then reveal the foreground one and then paste it onto there. So now you can see what this is currently looking like. And the lava definitely looks more menacing than it did before. And again, you can keep coming in here and playing with these settings to get it exactly how you want it. But I think this should work for our purposes.